welcome to the MOOBment. I'm Laurie Ann, your host and creator of the MOOBment, and I thank you so much for joining us today and for listening. Today will be a slightly different version of the MOOBment podcast. We've received so much in the way of MOOB Mail, meaning the input that you all have so kindly and graciously given me as to where this show would be, questions you have, and so forth. And quite honestly, when I started this podcast, I wasn't sure whether or not I would receive any mail at all. And I have, in fact, gotten so much input from so many of you listeners, and please continue to send things in and tell your friends. But I thought today we would devote the whole show to MOOB Mail and what we've been asked from you, and try to respond and cover the topics that you seem to want to hear. In sifting through the MOOB Mail, there seem to be many of the same kind of comments and the same kind of questions. So I just pulled out a few, and I thought we would address those. And in doing so, I didn't really want to do this alone. So I invited my friend Valerie Berman to join us. And Valerie is here today, and I will let her tell you a little bit about herself and her background. But I will tell you that Valerie, like myself, she is a MOOB. She's a mother of only boys, and she has 3 sons and a lot of experience. So I thought she would be the perfect person to be here today to help us address some of that MOOB Mail. So Valerie, welcome to the MOOBment.
Thank you for having me here, Laurie.
You are very welcome, and we are so excited to have you and have your input and your wisdom. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and your MOOBness as well?
So I am also the proud mother of 3 boys, roughly the same age as Laurie's 3 boys. I raised my family in Westchester, New York. I really knew nothing about boys. I had a sister. I had 2 girl cousins who lived close by, and I just was not. Boys were a different breed for me, and I always just assumed I would have daughters. And I remember having my first son and thinking, oh, I'm not going to have 2 sisters because I assumed I would have 2 girls and 2 children. And then I had my second boy, and my husband was very clear he wanted 2 children. And I always wanted 3. My sister and I are 7 years apart, and I just wanted that camaraderie that I did not have growing up. And then, oops, I had a 3rd.
Was it an oops, Valerie?
Oops. I wanted 3. I'm sure I would have convinced my husband. So I'm never going to say I became pregnant to have a girl because, oops. But having said that, everyone at the time, it's a girl, it's a girl, it's a girl. My grandmother would say, oh, my mother had 2 boys and a girl. My grandfather said he had 2 boys and a girl. It was just assumed. And I wasn't 35 at the time, but I was nervous because I had had 2 healthy children and wanted amnio. But I didn't want to find out. My husband did, which is silly because when one knows and one doesn't, I don't know how that anyone can do that.
Oh, I'm going to tell you that story, but go on.
And I had the amnio, and it was my birthday, and it was my 34th, and they poked me once, and they poked me twice, and they said, you need to come back. And I said, oh, no, I'm not coming back. That's it. And they said, okay, we'll try one more time to get a pocket. And they kept referring to the baby as he. Now, my husband kept saying, Valerie, it's generic. It doesn't mean anything. But I just sort of had a feeling. And then about 8-9 days later, when we get the call, I hand the phone to my husband and I hear him say, great, great, great. And I don't know. I had to know. I had to know, even though I wasn't going to know. And I wasn't prepared to find out. But I had to know. I had to know. And I literally dragged it out of him. And he told me it was a boy. And because I wasn't prepared to find out, my reaction was so unprepared as well. I just ran up to the bedroom and sort of cried. But I didn't even know why I was crying, Laurie. And it's taken me 31 years to kind of really figure it out, and really kind of also talking with you. And it wasn't that I was sad it was a third boy, because as you have said multiple times, I wouldn't replace any of them for anything. But it was sort of, for lack of a better word, the death of what I thought my life was going to be. I thought when I became pregnant, oh, maybe I'll be able to take her for a manicure with me, or maybe, and I don't even really know what I expected, because in reality, when you have a daughter, there's no guarantee that she's going to be your friend, that you're not going to butt heads a lot, or that she's going to live nearby you as an adult. And as time went on, my first thoughts were, oh, thank goodness I didn't have a girl. I would have given her all my shtick and my worrying about my weight and my worrying about this and sort of identifying, and maybe I would have messed her up. And as that time went on, I worry about different things now, and there are, Laurie, and I know this is really maybe getting a little off topic. I'm not going to say there aren't times that I don't think about it. I don't think about that I'm sad I have 3 boys, but I sometimes wish I had a daughter to share things that I love that just don't resonate with my boys. But that's it. That's really it. I have one daughter-in-law now. One of my sons has moved in with his girlfriend. I'm hoping I will have 2 daughters-in-law. Hope ultimately 3. I have a grandson and another grandson on the way. They'll be 18 months apart. And at this point, doesn't make a difference to me whether it's a boy or girl. I couldn't love my grandson any more than I do right now. And I think he's the absolute cutest. And I think boys are the best. But there's a whole discussion that Laurie and I could have about my life with boys so far.
So there is a legitimate topic that I have researched that maybe we will have you back for, called gender disappointment. And there have been books written about gender disappointment, psychologists trying to negotiate gender disappointment. I think that, like many things, as we get older, we see things differently than when we are younger. And like a lot of topics, culture dictates. And, culture dictates a boy and a girl, and this is what boys should be, and this is what girls should be. And, we get that in our heads about this is what perfection is, or it's supposed to be. And as we get older, we realize that we are blessed with what we have, and that there is no perfect. There's
no supposed to be.
There's no supposed to be. There's no perfect. There's what your life is. And as my little glass says here, you can look at it as what am I missing, or always have full, all of the blessings that I do have. And many of us MOOBs, many of us mothers of only boys, are truly satisfied, fulfilled, grateful for our boys, for our life with our boys. I always considered myself as a little girl, a girly girl. And then I think back and I think, well, maybe I wasn't such a girly girl, because I embrace the sports and all the things that my boys do.
What does that even mean anyway? I didn't mention also that I pivoted to another career later in life, and I went back to school to get my degree in education. And ultimately, I was a preschool teacher, which I was not the pivot that I thought. I thought it was going to be an elementary school teacher, but I really became even smarter. And I think I'm a naturally intuitive person. I think some people are, some people aren't. And I figure things out. And I was able to use my skills as a mother of boys, as a preschool teacher. And, sometimes maybe you're not supposed to give your own personal advice to parents, but I always found that helps, because not only what I've been through, but my perspective and what's important, and being able to see the reality for what it really is, has helped me a lot as a preschool teacher. So I feel, as you said, having wisdom and experience. And I didn't have 3 cookie cutter boys either, who were just, A-okay, right into the sports and everything was perfect. Life is never like that, which is another life lesson. But I feel I have a perspective from someone who knew nothing about boys and little boys and grown men, of really having a much more global experience and acceptance of what having boys are.
I agree with you. And I realize now in starting this podcast and starting a movement and starting a brand, MOOB brand kind of thing, how much what you're saying resonates with so many people and how many conversations and side conversations there are related to just who we are and this topic in general. I mean, I hope our listeners continue to stay with us because coming up, we will talk about gender disappointment. We talk about things we discover along the way that at least I never thought of before, like brotherhood. Like I watched my 3 sons have a bond as brothers that just gives me like incredible joy to watch. And not that they wouldn't be close with sisters and whatever, but I think it's different. And I think it probably would be different. And that's something I never considered when I have my 3rd son. You know, they're going to be a unit. Someday, hopefully a very long time from now when I'm not around anymore, they're going to have each other. They've got this special bond.
I've seen it already.
Yeah, I've seen it already too. And it's they just do anything for each other. And it's a really wonderful thing to watch. Let's move on because we are going to address some of the MOOB mail here.
Oh boy, it's that time. MOOB mail's here. Your voice meets mine. From your heart straight to our trail. Let's open up that MOOB mail.
I'm going to start with the first comment question. By the way, so many people who wrote into MOOB Mail didn't ask questions. They just gave me comments. And
They just need to share.
yeah, I'm a little blown away because so many were just really very complimentary about the podcast in general. And I want to just say thank you. I'm so glad that we're being helpful and heard. And,
Another example of being grateful.
Exactly. And I hope we're helping a lot of people, especially today. To you young moms, I hope you're listening to us and at least
Don't think
evaluating
old
what
moms don't still have worries.
That's
And I
true
can share
too.
that too.
That's true too. All right, let's get there. All right, the first MOOB mail that I'm going to talk about here is interesting because we talk about boys and girls. It came from somebody named Morgan, and Morgan wrote, "My boys, ages 6 and 8.5, will not sit still for family photos, including our annual Christmas photo. My friends who have girls are always talking about shopping for photo outfits and how their girls cooperate and how much fun it is, all dressed alike. I see their perfect photos with everyone smiling, and I would like to have that too. How do I harness my boys so that they will sit still and give me my photos?" What do you think, Valerie?
Not going to happen. And you have to accept the reality. I mean, I had 3 boys, and I look back on some family photos, and I have some pretty funny faces from one of them. First of all, in the best of worlds, how difficult is it to get a picture where everyone looks well anyway? I think you have to accept the silliness, the funny faces or the sloppiness or whatever else, because that's who your family is. And that's great. And I love that. And I love looking back at pictures like that.
And you know what? When you look back, you realize those pictures, if they could say one word, they say joy. Because it's what it is. It's reality and it's goofing around sometimes. And, you know, they may not want to smile or whatever it is.
That's I wish I could go back to that time when
Right.
they were just like that.
Right. So I think maybe
The chaos.
The chaos, right. So maybe our advice is don't stress about it. To me,
You're never going to take them for a manicure. I had to get past that. You're never going to have that girl perfect Christmas photo. Have your photo.
and your photo is perfect for you. And the other thing I just wanted to say is, and this isn't easy, don't compare. Like, you can always look at somebody else. The grass always looks greener and all. I think relish what you have in your family.
Very dangerous and slippery slide to do that because
You never really know what's going on with somebody else. And, why compare? You've got,
you've got your
proud and
lovely,
happy of what you
wonderful
have.
family.
Exactly. So maybe ask them, encourage them, make a silly face. Let's do something funny.
Stick your tongue out, maybe not, but something like that.
You'll go back and you'll appreciate that back when you look at it years from now. So I think, yeah. So hopefully that helps you, Morgan. Let's move on to the next MOOB Mail. So I had one, and there were a few like this too. What's the one all boy mom moment that still makes you laugh out loud?
Well, I have one that completely stays with me. Now, again,
Just one?
well, one stands out when you hear it. Some boys are chatty. Some boys are not. Many boys are not. And I remember the best time to talk to your boys are in the car if they want to talk. So out of the blue, my son, who was about going on 10, I'm not going to give his name because I'm not going to embarrass him because this will embarrass him. We're sitting in the car and we're driving. And he goes, Mom, I have to ask you a question. And I'm like so happy because he wants to talk to me. And he says, what happens if I get a wet dream at camp? And I'm in shock. Clearly they just had a health education discussion. So I look in the rearview mirror and I look back. I said, have you had one yet? And I don't even remember what he said.
The mom in you, the teacher in you.
I wasn't a teacher. I wasn't a teacher yet, but what the heck do I know about wet dreams? As I said, I have a sister. So I said, I think you should talk to Daddy about that because I really don't, he'd be better to able to help you.
Did you give him warning?
Okay, so I did exactly that. I went home and I said, oh my goodness, you have to talk to him. You have to. 2 weeks later, we're in the car and he says to me again, and I'm so careful not to say his name because I almost just said it. And he said to me, Mom, you never got back to me. And I'm, wait, Dad didn't talk to you about that? And he said, no. Now, what I did do in the interim was ask my sister, older sister with a nephew. And I said, did so-and-so ever ask you that question? And she said, no. But what I did tell him, I said, when you wake up in the morning, can you please pick up the tissues that are in your bed and throw them out for me so you don't leave them? So I said that to my son. I said, take some tissues and clean it up because my husband never, probably too embarrassed, I don't even know why he didn't ever approach the subject and throw them out. So that is a typical boy moment that I literally couldn't have prepared for and knew nothing about.
And we are now laughing out loud about it.
Yes.
Whereas at the moment, it might not have been so funny, more panicky.
I can't even still believe that he asked me twice.
That's funny. The one thing that came to my mind, one of my boys was very verbal at a young age. And we were in a supermarket and he was in the wagon, and sitting in the front. And we were walking down the supermarket. All of a sudden, he starts pointing and yelling and saying what very clearly sounds like F-U-C-K. And the parents are looking at me, and here's my little baby, like saying this word and oh my goodness, whatever. And I'm turning all shades of red. I'm like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. And all of a sudden, he leans over and pulls a cereal box, which has a giant picture of a frog on it.
Oh,
and I was like, frog, you're saying frog. And everybody looked at me and people started laughing. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like this, stands out in my mind as, a really hilarious moment that as a mom in general, but in his case, he was a little boy and I was mortified. So we have a lot of fun.
We could go on and on.
We could go on and on. So again, let's go for a takeaway here. Laugh.
Yeah. And you know what? As a mother, you have to be flexible and you have to, if you don't know the answer, go find it out and you have to laugh.
Right. You have to laugh because one day you is going to look back and you will laugh at those moments eventually. All right, next one. And by the way, that last one came because I said I would say these names. Last one came from a girl named Jessie. And the next one I'm going to read is also, let's see, this one is too similar. So let's go find another one. Okay, how about Sarah, who wrote in, what's one mistake that you'd made that you tell me don't beat yourself up over?
I would say, and this goes for having a daughter as well, and probably for me, it would have really gone for having a daughter. Don't have an image in your mind of what you want your son to be, whether you want him to be an athlete or whether you want him to be an intellect or whatever interest. Let your child be who they are and don't force anything that's not, because they're born a wonderful certain way and you can't make them who they're not. I have 3 sons. One's a better athlete than the other. And I didn't encourage them as much as I wish I had to really be who they are, because I had a vision of what they should be.
Right. I see. Yeah, I agree with that as well. Support them in what their interests are.
And it's hard sometimes because you have a vision of who you think they should be or who you want them to be friends with or what you want them to do. I just have a story I just come into my mind, Laurie, when I was a preschool teacher and this is before COVID, and they dressed up in clothes, and one little boy who always dressed up in girl clothes, just that's what he did. And, you went with it. And not saying that meant anything, because it totally, as an educator, I can tell you means nothing. But the father didn't want him playing with dolls, didn't want him dressing up. And he was 2. And it was so important that we had to take the clothes away. And I get it, because it wasn't the vision his father had. But what I learned in education is that you let it happen and you let it grow, and they learn from this. But it's very hard for a parent.
Well, it's hard. It is hard. And again, another topic, for another day, but accepting your child for who he is, regardless of what that is. You love your child. You want to support your child. And, in general, you adapt. There are so many things we can talk about as far as letting go in a way and supporting your child, because your child is a little boy and, you can mold them and you can teach them. But then there comes a point that they start having their own ideas and their own thoughts. And it's a little difficult sometimes to support what they want if it's not exactly what you expected them to be. And, you have to do that. Not easier said than done, but we do strive to do that. Absolutely. So, so what's one mistake that you've made that you tell me not to beat myself up over? And I thought about this too. And so I think one of the things that I did, although, everything turns out okay, is I tended to jump in and help my kids a little too early. I think it's okay to let them struggle and work things
More
out
than
for
okay.
themselves.
It's what you should do.
Exactly. And I think, again, it's not easy to do that. But I think they need to learn the process and learn to work through things.
Be resilient.
And should be resilient, right. And like you as their protector, you really want to jump in
the fixer.
Fix it for them. But sometimes it might be easier to just work it through with them, explain the process, and let them struggle a little.
And let them know it's okay to fail, because as you've said before, if you don't take risks, you don't grow.
Right.
And it's okay to take a risk. Look at the worst that can happen. I've heard you say that, and I've said that. That's my mantra to my children. What's the worst that can happen? It's never terrible. It's never the worst.
Right.
And it's difficult, but you move on, and that's okay too.
And hopefully, what you're doing is you're providing pretty much like a grounding for your kids. So that enables them to take that. I think that's more of our role as parents. Let's let them know that, they can take risks. They can go out and do things, because you're always going to have their back in the end. And they have that strong, grounding.
I mean, I could think of situations, and I'm sure you can too, Laurie, where you've tried to fix something that was silly. It didn't need to be fixed, and it should have been accepted.
Right. Absolutely. So that's what I would say to Sarah. I would say maybe as your boys get a little older, step back a little, let them figure it out on their own, and let them come ask you for help, even though you're dying to jump in and offer it, guidance, and not a fixer, right? Again, easier said than done sometimes, but maybe if we think about that advice a little bit before, that would be helpful. So here is another one from Annie, and I had several like this as well. Annie wrote, my boys, ages 10, 13, and 15 are sports fanatics, all three of them. I clearly do not, even though I've tried, share that interest with them. What helped you feel close to your sons as they got older and became teenagers?
Well, that's my boys.
Mm-hmm.
ESPN and whatever other sports station was on,
Seen it,
100% of the time. And I always had my ear open, but never interested in really watching. And I tried, believe me, when I met my husband too, I tried. I'm just not, doesn't interest me. I'm not a sports fanatic, but I did learn facts and I try to be enthusiastic. But having said that also, my husband has that's their connection.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not mine. I try to be interested. I try to remember names of sports players. I try to remember who's in the World Series. I really try, and I'm better than I ever was, but I was never able to really connect with them on that level because it's just not who I am.
So I'm a little different in that I love sports. My boys are also happen to be sports fanatics, and I do love sports. We are avid New York Knicks fans in my house. It's not a coincidence that my MOOBment colors are blue and orange. I'm also a Mets fan. Our house is split between Mets and Yankees. I do even, it's funny, my husband reminded me recently, he's like, Laurie, before we even had children, you were the biggest Washington's Redskins fan out there. We lived in D.C. for a while, and the whole city shuts down there when the Redskins play. And I do love sports. I probably don't connect on sports with them as much as their dad and their, male cousins and other people in their lives. They have that, again, brotherhood, that, kind of thing going on with them. But you know what? I always find other things to do, and I'm actually working on another MOOBment show. It's interesting because a few people have written in about kind of this topic, or my boys are so, off the wall, chaos, crazy. What other activities can I do with them to harness that energy? And I have a wonderful person coming in to talk about some of those things. So stay tuned. But I kind of found other things to do with them that I liked that I could give and share, like cooking. And here it's really interesting. So we would use cooking, and everybody loves to eat. My boys, they can eat under the table, as most boys can. So we would cook things together and, make pizza and make, all different things and I do it now with my grandchildren, the boys and the girls. We make, animals out of fruit. Last week we made a dinosaur using a banana and some strawberries and blueberries. And so we do all that. And the ironic thing is my boys loved it. I mean, there were food fights and it became sometimes a little crazy like boys can be. And you have to kind of laugh and go with it and clean it up and whatever it is. But now that they're all grown, all three of them, especially my youngest, but all three of them have become young chefs. They truly enjoy cooking. And, one of the other questions here, which we don't really have time for today, was about eating and being a picky eater. They, maybe because of the cooking we've done and the science behind it and the math and the measuring and all the lessons as a preschool teacher, I'm sure you can do, they have become less picky eaters. So you find something that you enjoy, because I always love to cook.
Well, as little boys,
share it with them.
What we did, and this is when they were little, I would get into bed with them at night and read them a chapter from Harry Potter. And and I'm not even going to say they're readers now, because I'm a big book reader, but one of them is actually. But every night they look forward to Mommy time and we read a chapter a night, and there were a lot of Harry Potter books, and we love Harry Potter. Now, that's not sports. That doesn't necessarily stay to their adult years, but that was a really wonderful mommy and me time, what we shared and what we love doing, because I love to read.
Right. So that's it. Find something you love, share it with them, and, don't necessarily compete with whether it's sports or whatever it is that you don't maybe love so much. Do your best with it.
But I also say sometimes it didn't work. I love Broadway shows. I love musicals. That's one thing I wish I had a daughter. Whether she would have loved musicals, maybe she wouldn't have loved musicals. I tried really hard with my boys, and I'm not going to say they love musicals. Sometimes it doesn't work also, and
Right.
that's okay.
Right. And interestingly enough, and it is okay, you could have had a daughter
Who didn't
didn't like it either,
Right.
because I have a lot of friends who have girls who have zero interest in that, and they're amazing athletes and whatever. So you have to love your kids and embrace what their passions are and give them the support they need. And I think that's what's most important. So anyway, Valerie, this has been wonderful.
I feel like this is just opening the crack, and there's so much more with all your guests to talk about, because there
Absolutely.
is so much to
There
talk
is
about.
so much more. And what I have to tell you is, before we do say goodbye to everybody here, I have a new kind of partner here that I wanted to share with you. And first of all, give you the gift as a thank you for
Oh my goodness, I thank you, Lori, but that's ridiculous.
Go ahead and open it.
Okay.
This is a bracelet from a company called Names for Good. And Names for Good makes these wonderful bracelets.
Oh, beautiful. This is my favorite color.
And can you tell everybody what your bracelet says?
No, because I'm not wearing my glasses. I'm old.
Her bracelet says MOOB, MOOB, so that everybody will know and she will remember that she is
And
a
I will wear
MOOB.
it, because I am a proud MOOB.
A proud MOOB, exactly.
And a proud MOOB of 2 grandsons.
And I do want to tell you that I feel really wonderful about this company, Names for Good. First of all, I will tell you that they are offering any of our listeners friends, 15% off discount with the code word MOOB, MOOB, and the discount code.
And they put other names and other initials
And
on.
you can make whatever you like.
Wow, I
You
love
can
this.
MOOB, you can do whatever you like.
I
Proud
love
MOOB,
this.
All boy mom. You can do any different colors and combinations.
Love this.
And they're offering a discount for our listeners, which is wonderful. Just use the code word MOOB. And the reason that I was really attracted to this business was that it was started by a young woman really at the beginning of the pandemic, who gave birth to a premature baby. And the baby was in the NICU, the neonatal intensive care unit, for quite a while. And she found some time to be productive and get through that time in her life by making some of these bracelets for her friends and family. And it kind of took off, and she found she was bringing joy to people by doing this. And she created a business. And what she does is, it's called Names for Good for a reason. She donates her profits to charities that support young children.
Well,
and
nothing better than that.
Resonates with me and hopefully with all of you out there. So I hope you will go to their website.
To buy this for other friends of mine who are MOOBs.
There you go. Perfect gift. Perfect. And you can really use them to write whatever you want on your bracelets and make them unique for you. And they have charms and all kinds of things like
I get this for my daughter-in-law.
There you go. There you go. It's a great gift for somebody who's just having a baby boy. Exactly. So thank you, Valerie.
Thank you, Laurie. And I look forward to listening to your further podcasts, because even as an older mother, I'm still learning.
Absolutely. We are all still learning, and we need to keep our minds open. And we learn from those older and wiser. We learn from those younger. We learn a lot from our kids. And it's good to always keep an open mind, don't you think?
I try.
We all do. We're going to skip our confession corner, which is our other signature segment this week due to time. And we'll pick up with that again next time. And I want to thank all of our listeners for listening today. I'm going to ask you to keep the MOOB Mail coming in. I just love reading it, and we will hopefully address some of it on shows to come. Please follow us on our social media. We are on Instagram at the MOOBment. That's TheMOOB, as in boy.
Tell your friends to follow too.
Tell your friends to follow. We're on Facebook as well on the MOOBment. And if this show resonates with you, first of all, listen to the others as well. And please go on to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, leave us a review, because in the podcast world, those positive reviews mean everything. And we also have a website, www.themoobment.com. And on that website, you will find information about us. There's a listen page where you can find access to all of our shows, We are also on YouTube. If you want to see our pretty faces, we will
Maybe not.
be on YouTube. And we thank everybody for listening. And as always, I'm going to end this podcast by saying, hug your boys, trust your instincts, and remember that where all boy moms belong, and those who love us too, is right here.
Oh boy, that's it for today. Oh boy, you made it all the way. Oh boy, glad you came to stay. We'll do it again on another day.